Welcome to the Freelance Drive. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey. Stay tuned for real-life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Franziska Veh, an experienced graphic designer who started her own design studio more than 10 years ago and helped clients such as Lufthansa, BMW, Google to transform business ideas into strong visual identities. So, welcome, Franziska.
Thank you very much for having me. Hi.
Super happy to talk to you. And let's jump to your experience right away. You've been running a creative studio for almost 12 years so far. So tell me, were you working alone for some time in the beginning, or did you start it with somebody right away?
So I started working basically as a freelancer in 2006 already. I was still at university, and then I got commissioned with my very first branding project. I found it, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago in our design archive at the studio. And as a side note, I'm really happy that I developed my design skills further since then. Yeah, and I worked mostly for other agencies back then, graduated. My thesis was realized. It was an identity for a radio station in Munich, and I started freelancing basically for agencies, but got more and more commissions by clients. And at some point had too much work to handle it on my own and started hiring the first person. And organically developed my studio from going freelance to the studio as it is right now.
And what motivated you to start your own studio?
I would say from a professional point of view, specializing more and more in brand development and especially strategy-led branding, I noticed that it's crucial to work in a team or with a team because I think a full brand cannot be created by only one person or two people. It needs different perspectives, ideally from people with different backgrounds, different experiences. And I wanted to work more and more with clients that also align with my values. Working freelance mainly with, very often with brands that are from different sizes and different industries. I wanted to start my own studio to have a little bit more control over who I work with. And I would say from a personal point of view, as a freelancer, I met a lot of great teams. I experienced a lot of different brand cultures within companies or within teams. And at some point, I wanted to create my own within my own studio or within my own team.
But it also adds a lot of responsibilities. So how do you feel about that?
It is in true a lot of responsibility. Thinking back, if I had to do it again, I would probably do a lot of things different. But I think in my case, it started growing organically. And I kind of grew into the role. So it was not like a hard break. It was really going from freelance, hiring one person, hiring a second person, and always optimizing the structure of the team on the side. I think that made a difference. So it was not like overwhelming from one break to the other, so to say.
How did you understand the moment you need to hire one more person?
As I said before, first I was working for agencies, then for own clients. And I got more and more work. It was too much work I could handle. And I was basically just producing design work and just delivering. And I had deadline after deadline after deadline. And I noticed that it kind of affects my creativity in a way. So if you want to really, until today, if I need to develop a strategy for a brand and really create this big vision that influences so many people, society, environment, brands do that. And me as a brand designer, I'm actively participating or playing an active role in that. I need some headspace and time to develop those things. And if you're just under constant pressure, of course, I'm at some point a service provider, but also like a creative person. And if there's too much pressure, the quality of work, it's really going downhill in like a really short amount of time. And I felt it needs a little bit more structure.
Yeah, exactly. And as a founder, as a creator of a studio, do you have weekends?
Yes. I mean, I didn't start last year, so I'm doing it for quite a while now. I think this was also the point where I was like working night shifts, working weekends before I hired the first person, and been there, done that. And I'm really not working on the weekend. It's really maybe twice a year if it's somehow necessary. Of course, I'm thinking about a couple of things, but at the studio, we even shifted to a 4-day work week. So Fridays are off. I'm still doing sometimes client work or like conceptual thinking, but it's without appointments, without meetings, mainly. And I think that works quite well. That gives me much more drive for the beginning of the week after.
Got it. And how do goals and aspiration for business, for the studio, differ from your freelancing goals?
I think running your own studio and having a team, it helps you getting projects of bigger sizes or being in charge of like the full branding process, which is my specialty, developing the whole strategy and the whole concept for a brand. It also means making decisions differently and more strategic because, as you said before, you have now a responsibility over like a whole team and not just for yourself. So you're not making it because you like the project and it's a cool topic. You make it more strategic also, of course, financially. It's a different game if you have to decide and be responsible for other people.
I saw on your website that most of your team are freelancers, like freelance designer, freelance copywriter. So do you work with freelancers or do you have employees too?
I do have employees. We are currently a team of 4 creatives, and we always add freelance creatives or freelance support, project-based, depending on if it's illustration, could be UX, web development. It really depends on the client's needs. So it helps us to stay flexible, but still we can react pretty fast as like the core team of it, like our core competence in-house.
How do you make sure that your freelance part, that you're part of freelance team, let's say, is open? So if you need them, they are always there for you.
I mean, that's not, you're familiar with the freelance life. That's not always the case, especially during summertime. It's hard to get people. People are on vacation. People are trying to enjoy the sun. We have a pool of freelancers. We're lucky that most of our clients plan ahead. So we have some time to plan the projects in advance. And I would say we're pretty good at it.
Cool.
So yeah, I think we barely have the problem that we have to deliver work and don't have any support in this respected field. So
if after listening to this episode, somebody wants to work with you as a freelancer, how they can do that?
They can send us an email. It's always, of course, based on availability or if you think it's a fit to the team. That's why I think we also like to work with different freelancers, because maybe one has a style that fits to this one project, and then for another client we notice it's like a different design skill that we need in a different style as well. So yeah, just send an email, send your application, swing by for a coffee if you're in Berlin. Yeah.
And why do you like working with freelancers?
I would say for me, or like for our studio and what we offer for our services, it's the mix of both. Having like a core team that kind of understand where we want to head to as a studio, and adding freelancers because I think also for clients where we work with on a regular basis, freelancers, they bring sometimes a completely different perspective to it, especially if it's like design skill that we don't have in-house. For example, 3D design, yeah, it gives us also some input to put or like to get a better quality output for the project or for the client. And I think that's what matters, right? To get like a good output or the best output.
Got it. As a founder and creative director, what are your responsibilities?
I would say over time, my responsibilities clearly shifted towards the management side. So I design less and less, which I have to say, not really sad about. Back in the days, I was doing all the design myself. These days, it's mainly business development, client relationship management. I do brand workshops to be able to write a strategy for a project and then give creative direction for the execution. And this is basically the point where I hand over to my team. We have art directors, designers, and they basically execute the strategy into a visual identity. And then together with the team, and this is where the whole teamwork comes in. And what I'm really happy about is that we together think in which direction could we develop this project? Do we add a 3D designer? Do we need creative coding? Do we need a sound designer? And then this basically makes the output so great. And every project also different, which is always exciting. So we're not specializing in just this one niche or like one industry. It's really always that we develop something new, and it's really, really exciting.
I had conversations with different freelancers and also with different founders, and who started as an expert and then moved to a founder or a director, basically such as you. And they still want to be this kind of like active coach, playing coach. And you told that you like that you are turning more to management side. Why so?
Can you maybe, before I answer, define coach? Like working in a respective field, basically a trade designer wants to stay a designer?
I mean, like, you know, when in a football match or something, when you have this trainer, a coach who coaches a team, who trains the team, but also if somebody of a player have injury or something like that, they can always go on a field and play as a usual player.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's necessary, just talking the pandemic, I mean, we've all been there. I mean, what do you do if you run a studio and everyone is sick with COVID? Of course, I still have to jump in. I think to me, it's also related to personal development. I take more joy these days, or I enjoy it more developing the big picture and not being like the nitty-gritty design details. So yeah, I don't mind it at all. I'm actually pretty happy the way it is and the way how it developed. I mean, I was also planning it, so
yeah,
it did not just happen.
What would you like to delegate that you are not doing yet?
I would say I managed to delegate the majority of what I wanted to delegate. So we constantly optimized our team structure. I think anything that's related to bookkeeping, I mean, I think you can ask any designer or any creative. Nobody wants to deal with receipts or not necessarily, you know, the paperwork that comes with it. So yeah, maybe this, but no, I think I'm pretty happy with it.
You know, I kind of know the answer for the next question, and I was thinking, should I ask or not? But I will still ask to like have your final answer. So at
Bring
the
it
moment,
on.
If you were choosing at the moment between being a freelancer and starting a studio, what would you choose and why?
Uh, you have to tell me later what your expected answer was. I think definitely studio. If I'm on holidays, sometimes I think back to the freelance days because it's less responsibility. But I really like the challenge, first of all, running a studio. I like the responsibility. And I think just thinking of my studio specifically, I think I have a great team working at the studio. I think us working together, we develop like great things I could never do on my own.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I would choose studio. Was that your guess?
That was my answer too,
Okay.
And Franziska, I really wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So the final question, what is your favorite food?
Seafood pasta or anything with seafood. If not seafood, anything with truffles.
Got it. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, Franziska. And it's been such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
Thanks for having me. And bye-bye.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friends. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.